Hello, all my fellow warriors of light and future warriors of darkness. Now, this is going to be a special video in me discussing what I personally thought of the ending for Stormblood. Now, if you haven't played through part 2 yet, I recommend that you go and play it first before watching this video, especially if you don't want the ending spoiled for you. And that's the great thing about YouTube. There's this thing called the pause button. But yeah, this is just going to be a quick discussion on what I felt about the ending for Stormblood and why I just feel so unsatisfied, I guess is the right word. We start off with this rather nice scene of Maxima coming to visit the sleeping Alpha No at the Rising Stones. And we also get a chance to speak with Sid, which we really haven't seen him for a while now that I think of it. Anyway, he and Maxima seem to be hitting it off as friends because, you know, they're both Garlean defectors and everything. They have a lot to talk about, a lot in common. And Sid seems kind of unsure about how he should feel about the news that Gaius is alive. Of course, there's no time to really sit back and think about it because we just got word that the Alliance is asking for the Warrior of Light at the borders of the Gimlet Dark. Sid gives us a ride where we end up meeting with Ralbon, and we find out that Xenos, or the Ascian Xenos, has arrived, and the Garleans are beginning to push us back. Now, we are ready to go out and face him, at least until the Warrior of Light is struck by the same voice once again, and almost ends up blacking out where the voice is clearer than ever. But still, the Warrior of Light is determined to end things, and they head out onto the battlefield anyway. While that's happening, we cut to Hien, who's battling with the Ascian Xenos, with Yugiri and Lys, and it turns into a fight where we battle as Hien. And it's very clear that these guys are no match for Xenos, imposter or not. But that's not the point here. The point isn't to actually beat him, but to just kind of hold him there, just stall him for as long as possible, at least long enough for the Warrior of Light to arrive and take it from there. So the Warrior of Light does end up arriving just in time, and they take over the battle and they clash with Xenos in a full fight. In the end, we defeated the Xenos, yet he seems determined to get up and keep going. But as we go running in for a kill, the voice arrives once more, and the Warrior of Light falls to their knees, unable to move. And that's when the Ascian Xenos tries to use this opportunity to kill us. And the last thing we see is Xenos standing over us, bringing his blade down before we awaken in the ethereal sea. It's here that we're standing upon a strange platform in this vast nothingness, and we finally meet the owner of the strange voice that we've been hearing. Standing there behind us is this man who we don't know anything about, we don't know his name, we don't even know what he looks like. But we recognize his voice as the same voice we've been hearing in our heads this whole time. Not only that, we see that he seems to have some parts of his body actually turning to crystal, such as his arm, and you see parts of his face. The robed figure is overjoyed at finally being able to contact you face to face like this, but he doesn't seem to be able to answer any of our questions because their time there is so limited. Instead, he tells the Warrior of Light that he has need of their strength and that even if they win this war with the Garleans, they can't change the calamity that's coming. So instead, he tells them they have to go to the Crystal Tower where he left a beacon there for them that will aid us in their journey. So he tells the Warrior of Light that all they have to do is find it and he'll take care of the rest, and that the door to the first will be opened at last. It's after that we awaken in a bed, safe and sound, in Ishgard, where Sir Emmerich is there waiting for us, and he's overjoyed at seeing us awake, and he fills us in on everything that happened after we blacked out. Before the Ascian Xenos landed the killing blow, it turns out that Istinian showed up at the last minute and spirited us away to safety. After that, the Garleans retreated slightly, giving the Alliance the chance to sort of move forward a little bit and kind of retake everything that we lost when the Garleans first tried to push us back. After parting ways with Sir Emmerich, the Warrior of Light returns to the Rising Stones, where Tataru has just arrived from Kugane and weeps tears of joy at seeing the Warrior of Light alive and well. That is when they decide that if we are going to finish off the Ascian Xenos once and for all, we're going to need the other Scions to help us do so. And so Tataru vows to do all in her power to help find that beacon and find this other way, by saving the Scions and putting an end to the war once and for all. And while this is all happening, another enemy is determined to get back what was stolen from him. Alright, so that's just the very basic idea of everything that happened at the end of Stormblood, and so I have to ask Square Enix, couldn't you have just put all of that into just like one big patch? First of all, I'm severely disappointed in the fact that we only had 2 quests this time, and one of them felt like it wasn't even truly needed. I mean, 3 months. 3 months of waiting for part 2, its main scenario questline, And I say that I'm glad that we got the Beast Tribe and the Hildebrand quest mixed in, because even that felt a little bit more interesting to me. But I just don't think that we had to wait 3 months for this. Now we have to wait another 3 months for Shadowbringers. Maybe if the quests were longer, had just a little bit more context in them, or at least gone up to like 5 or 6 of the quest lines, maybe it would have been better. I may have felt a little bit more satisfied that they were worth waiting for those 3 months, but I don't know. I just can't help but feel unhappy with how it ended. By how things stand right now, I feel like they just rushed through the ending here and gave us like the very bare minimum of what we normally expect. Granted, not all of it was bad. I'll admit that. I mean, one thing I really did like was the fight with Xenos there. Well, the Elizabeth Xenos, but whatever. Both as Hien and later on as the Warrior of Light arrives, because it really shows just kind of the difference in strength and skill that they all have. I mean, Hien, make no mistake, he is a strong and capable warrior, but he was barely able to even make a scratch against Xenos, fake or not. And come on, I think everybody knows at this point that he is a fake. I mean, he wasn't even trying to hide it in the battle. Like, the whole time he was fighting them, it was like, this body is adequate enough. Like, I'll just finish you all off here, and come on. I mean, you could have at least made it a little bit more challenging for them, Elizabeth, but anyway, we also had not only Hien, but we had Yugiri, who is a fully trained shinobi, and Lise, who can break through walls with her bare hands, for crying out loud, and they all were just jacked up here. They didn't stand a chance. And the fake Xenos just seem to have been toying with them for a lot of it. I mean, they put up like a pretty good struggle, that's true, but in the end it was like, all right, yep, I had my fun, and that was when he just slashed at them. It was like, because he got, once he heard that the Warrior of Light was almost there, it was like, oh, well, I might as well take care of you guys now, because fun's over, I guess. Boom. Because that's when his real opponent was coming. And I think that during this whole fight was really just him testing himself at first. I mean, it is a new body, but it's also a very powerful body. So I think he was just kind of testing the water, so to speak, testing himself and kind of getting used to using this body before he goes full out on it. And that's when the Warrior of Light arrives, and it mirrors the other fights that we've had with him, where, I mean, we're up against a really strong opponent. But in the end, they were overwhelmed but not defeated. And that's kind of a thing. And that's when the voice strikes the Warrior of Lights at perhaps the worst possible moment for them. I mean, what would that mysterious figure have done if the fake Xenos killed them because they were trying to communicate with them like through mental telepathy or whatever? And then again, maybe he had his reasons for doing so. If what we saw in the trailer was true, then he seems to be able to watch people like from the Crystal Tower. Maybe he knew that Estidian was watching nearby or something and targeted us before we killed the fake Xenos because that could lead to maybe further imbalance. I'm not sure. But yeah. But that is another thing that I noticed in this particular patch. Well, I'm kind of reluctant to call it a patch, but that is something that I did notice here. That the Alliance seems to be paying a little bit more attention to the fact that the Warrior of Light is a person, not just some unstoppable machine. I think that after realizing that their strong and stoic warrior can be bested in combat, it really opened up their eyes and reminded them that everyone has their limits, even the Warrior of Light. And you see this with Sir Emrek, Ralbon, Hien, Tataru. We all see these people are really concerned about the Warrior of Light as their friend, telling them, you don't have to do this, you don't need to worry about everyone else all the time, you leave the fighting to us this time, and you focus on your recovery. That's all that we want for you. And you know what? I really did like that because at the beginning of Stormblood, it did kind of feel a little bit like they were starting to treat the Warrior of Light as some sort of weapon. But here at the end, it's nice that they all got this reminder that the Warrior of Light is a person too. I mean, the Warrior of Light is also their friend who needs care, who needs to be looked after too. So that's good. I really did like that. But really, it just all comes down to the fact that the ending comes kind of out of nowhere. I mean, there was hardly any build-up for it, and even when we reach the climax, it's still not completely clear that we're supposed to be going to the first shard. I mean, we know that because of the fan festival, and they came out and told us, but Otherwise, it's like, where did this even come from? I mean, I admit it, I don't think that they'll be able to top the ending to the game like how they did with the 2.x series, the Parting Glass. But it's like they're just getting sloppier with the endings now. Like, they're so eager to set the stones for the next expansion, they're not really taking the time and effort that the game deserves for an ending. I mean, at the end of the 2.0 series, it's been built up for several patches that the next place we're going to was Ishgard. I mean, ever since Dreams of Ice, we started to get more and more involved with Ishgard. We met characters who would later become really good friends and allies and help us on our journey throughout Ishgard. So when it was revealed that we were going to the Northlands of Ishgard, it all led perfectly up into it. In the 3.0 series, while it did feel a bit rushed, I mean, we were hearing about Alamigo for a long time, so it was kind of in the back of our minds that we were going there eventually. We just didn't know how quickly we would. And I admit it was also a bit of a surprise to find out we were going to Doma as well, but even then, there was some sort of leading up to it, at least with Lady Yugiri and the Domans. Here, though, it's just completely out of nowhere. I mean, no one was sure where exactly this story was going to end. Many people did theorize that we were going to the first shard, that we were going to another dimension. There was plenty of talk about time travel, wondering whether or not we would be heading off to Ishabard. Maybe we would go back in time to the past. Maybe we would go forward to the future and see what the Calamity is going to do. And there were just so many different theories going around. And so here, they waited until the last possible moment before they gave us just the tiniest of hints of what we were supposed to do, and we have no clear path forward to walk now. And I don't know, I just feel a bit cheated, because it doesn't feel like we got a true conclusion, a real closure to Stormblood. I know that the battle is far from over, but really, 3 months for only 2 main scenario quests? That doesn't feel right to me. It feels like they just rushed through it, even more so of how they felt for the ending of 3.0. At least then we had Omega and we're setting up Shinryu. Here, though, we don't know anything. I mean, we know next to nothing about the first shard or what we're supposed to do there. We haven't met any new characters who are going to be able to help us through this journey aside from the voice that we've been hearing, and even then we're not sure if he's really on our side. I mean, I want to say he's a friend, but he hasn't really given us any reason to think otherwise. Not only that, he tells us that he left something for us at the Crystal Tower and that we have to find it and we don't know exactly what it is we're supposed to be looking for. In the last couple expansions, it was really easy enough to understand. We're heading to Ishgard because it was the only safe place left for us from the agents of Udal. It was about clearing our names as well as helping to put a stop to the Dragon Song War. And at the end of Heaven's Ward, we're heading off to Alamigo. It was all about liberation. We're freeing nations from the oppression of the Garlean Empire. Here, though, we still don't have a clear idea or what our mission is supposed to be. We're just being swept away, it feels like, and we have no choice but to go with the flow. I think that maybe if they added just 2 or 3 more series of quests and that just kind of helped give us just a little bit. Like, for example, I mean, I think they could have spared a few extra minutes of this robed guy just telling us at least what his name is and exactly what it is that he wants us to do. I mean, he says he needs our strength, but what does he need our strength for? How was he able to project his voice to our heads? And if he is responsible for the other Scions falling asleep, why did he do that and where are they now? He could have explained more about these twin dooms and the type of calamity that's going to be waiting for us as well as the state of the first shard. Give us something to go on. Don't let us keep stumbling around in the dark when we have no idea what we're doing half the time. I don't get what it is with these people like that not sharing us everything they know and still expect us to help them. I know he said their time was limited, but come on, he could have done a lot more explaining than what he did. Not only that, I think that they could have added in a few extra scenes where we could have had Estinian jumping in to save the Warrior of Light from Xenos' blade before carrying them off to safety. That would have been exciting. How about after speaking with this rogue guy, we have to go through some kind of, I don't know, trial or run to try to escape the ethereal sea and get back to our bodies. Like, we see ourselves as some kind of projection on the battlefield where we kind of left off and Estinian had carried our body away, so we kind of have to navigate our way back through the Gimlet Dark to get back to our bodies before our soul breaks apart or something. That would have been really cool. Not only that, but after we're making our way through the Gimlet Dark trying to get back to our bodies, and our souls could end up seeing like the real Xenos. Like they could accidentally discover that the real Xenos' soul is still alive and that he's possessing the body of another. I do think that they could have done a lot more with the story with this much potential. However, I will say that I'm glad that they stated right off the bat that we didn't win the war yet. Xenos and the Garleans retreated, and so things are going to be quiet for a little longer because of all these rumors going around that Xenos is actually a possessed demon. Other nations under the Garlean rule are starting to rise up, and the Garleans are really being forced back here. So we know that the battle is still far from over, but we still have a slight reprieve until then. And we know it's not going to end anytime soon. And since the next patch is going to be all about, saving the world of the first, I don't think that we're going to be seeing an ending to that war, at least during this particular expansion. So I think that we're going to have to focus more on preventing this other calamity. And then we'll be moving on to the Garlean Empire in 6.0. At least that's kind of how it's looking to me so far. I don't think that we'll really be able to focus on Garlemald in this expansion since we're going to another world. So overall, it wasn't terrible. I mean, there were parts I enjoyed, but it did feel like there was kind of no meat on the bones here, and it was over too quickly. It feels like we were just being directed away from the fight with the Garleans just when we got it into our minds, yeah, we're going to be fighting against the Garleans next, who have been our enemies since even the 1.0 series. This war has been going on for such a long time now, and we're all looking forward to actually getting in there and fighting them. But I find it hard to see how we can really focus ourselves into fighting against them when we're stuck in the world of the first trying to bring back the night, so to speak. It just feels really messy to me. And not only that, we still don't know anything else about where the other Scions are, what they're up to, how we could be meeting up with them in the first shard. There's so many questions about the Black Rose and Solas's plans with it. I mean, he seems to have disappeared for a time, and he has something planned with the poison. That much is clear. Now, from the cover art we see here, we know he's going to be playing a crucial role in Shadowbringers, but what of the scene at the end where we have that twisted look in Varys' face, like he's turning evil or something? Is he possessed? I don't know. So yeah, this whole video to me is just kind of complaining about how the ending of Stormblood and what I would have liked to have seen. So take from it what you will. If you agree with me, just please let me know down below. Is there something that you missed? I would also like to hear it. And maybe you are free to tell me that you're completely wrong. I think it was amazing. I don't think we need it anymore. Well, good for you. But yeah, that's just my personal opinions for right now. So hopefully Shadowbringers is going to make up for all of that and be so amazing it blows us out of the water that we don't even care that Shadowbringers ended like this. So until then, bye-bye.